Robin Williams was a once-in-a-generation talent, a man who could make the world laugh while quietly battling his own inner darkness. His sudden death in 2014 shocked millions, leaving behind unanswered questions and painful speculation. Now, with the release of his official autopsy report, the truth about his final hours has finally come to light, and it's more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. On August 11, 2014, the world lost one of its brightest stars, Robin Williams, a man whose laughter and energy touched millions through his work as a comedian and actor. His death at the age of 63 sent shockwaves through fans, friends, and family, leaving many grappling with questions about what led to such a tragic end. Initial reports pointed to suicide, with early speculation focusing on his long history of depression and recent struggles. But when the autopsy report was released in November 2014, it revealed a heartbreaking truth that went beyond what most people assumed. Robin Williams wasn't just battling mental health challenges, he was suffering from a devastating neurological condition called Lewy body dementia, or LBD, which had been misdiagnosed as Parkinson's disease during his final months. This condition, combined with his existing struggles, painted a far more complex picture of his final hours. Let's dive into the story of Robin Williams' last days, the findings of his autopsy, and what they tell us about the challenges he faced. This isn't just a story about a celebrity's death, it's a story about a man fighting an invisible battle, one that even those closest to him didn't fully understand until it was too late. We'll explore the facts from the coroner's report, insights from his family, and the science behind Lewy body dementia to piece together what happened and why. This is a story of talent, struggle, and a condition that changed everything. Robin Williams was born on July 21, 1951, in Chicago, Illinois. His father was a senior executive at Ford's Lincoln Mercury division, and his mother was a former model. Growing up, Robin was known for his quick wit and boundless energy, traits that would later define his career. He moved to California as a teenager, where his passion for entertaining took root. By the late 1970s, he shot to fame as the quirky alien Mork in the TV show Mork and Mindy. From there, his career exploded, spanning stand-up comedy, TV, and movies. Films like Good Will Hunting, where he won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, Dead Poets Society, Mrs. Doubtfire, and his unforgettable voice role as the genie in Disney's Aladdin cemented his place as a beloved figure. His ability to blend humor with heart made him a unique talent, someone who could make you laugh and cry in the same breath. But behind the scenes, Robin's life wasn't always as joyful as his performances. He had a well-documented history of battling depression and addiction. He struggled with alcohol and drug abuse in the 1980s, got sober, and then faced a relapse in the early 2000s. By 2006, he checked into rehab and maintained sobriety for the last 8 years of his life, a testament to his strength. But depression was a constant shadow, one he spoke about openly at times, though he often masked his pain with humor. In 2011, he married his third wife, Susan Schneider, and seemed to be finding stability, but new challenges were emerging that would prove overwhelming. In 2013, about a year before his death, Robin began experiencing troubling symptoms. He had trouble sleeping, felt anxious, and noticed physical changes like a tremor in his left hand and slower movements. These issues started to affect his work, which was a source of pride and identity for him. His son, Zach Williams, later shared that Robin was frustrated because he couldn't perform his craft the way he once did. He was used to being quick, sharp, and in control, but something was off, and it was taking a toll. In May 2014, doctors diagnosed him with Parkinson's disease, a progressive neurological disorder that affects movement and can cause tremors, stiffness, and balance problems. The diagnosis hit him hard. According to his close friend Billy Crystal, Robin's voice was shaky when he shared the news, revealing a fear that was rare for someone known for his boldness. Parkinson's was a heavy blow, but Robin tried to keep going. He was taking medications like levodopa, commonly used to manage Parkinson's symptoms, and was still working on projects, including the TV show The Crazy Ones. But the show struggled to find an audience, and CBS canceled it after one season, adding to his stress. He was also dealing with personal challenges, including guilt over his divorce from his second wife, Marcia Garces, and financial pressures. These factors piled up, but what no one knew at the time was that Parkinson's wasn't the full story. The real culprit was something far more insidious, and it wouldn't be discovered until after his death. On the morning of August 11, 2014, Robin Williams was found unresponsive in his home in Tiburon, California, in the Paradise Key neighborhood. His assistant, concerned for his well-being, entered a bedroom that belonged to his stepson, who was away at the time. There, they found Robin seated on the floor, with a belt secured around his neck, the other end wedged between a closet door and its frame. He had superficial cuts on his left wrist, and a pocket knife with dried blood, later confirmed to be his, was found nearby. An iPad and 2 types of antidepressants, mirtazapine and Seroquel, were on a chair in the room. Emergency responders arrived, but it was clear the Marin County Sheriff's Office ruled his death a suicide due to asphyxia by hanging. The scene was heartbreakingly quiet. Susan, his wife, had last seen him the night before when he seemed okay, though restless. She told investigators he had grabbed his iPad from their bedroom closet, and she thought it was a good sign, assuming he was in a decent mood and might read, something he hadn't done much lately. She left the house that morning to run errands, believing Robin was still sleeping. He had spent the night in a separate bedroom, not unusual given his insomnia and restlessness, which were attributed to his Parkinson's diagnosis. Susan later said Robin never expressed suicidal thoughts to her, even after the Parkinson's news. A search of his iPhone, iPad, and computer showed no evidence of searches related to suicide or hanging, suggesting the act may have been impulsive. In the days and weeks following his death, the world mourned in a way rarely seen. Fellow comedians, actors, fans, and even political figures expressed their grief and admiration. Tributes poured in from every direction, highlighting just how deeply Robin had impacted so many people. From his early work that inspired future comedians to his deeply empathetic dramatic roles, he had carved out a place that was uniquely his. The loss wasn't just of a celebrity, it was of a soul who gave of himself constantly, whose humor had lifted countless lives and whose internal suffering was invisible to most. What came next, however, revealed the true nature of the internal storm Robin had been battling. Following a request by Susan and the family, a full autopsy and toxicology report was conducted. What the pathologists found shocked even the medical experts. While he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, the pathology results showed that he had been suffering from Lewy body dementia, one of the most aggressive and misunderstood neurodegenerative diseases. This disease affects thinking, memory, and movement, and often causes hallucinations, delusions, and severe anxiety. It is frequently misdiagnosed as either Parkinson's or Alzheimer's disease, but its progression can be rapid and brutal. The presence of Lewy bodies in his brain was so widespread that doctors concluded it was one of the worst cases they had ever seen. This diagnosis reframed everything. It explained the anxiety, paranoia, insomnia, confusion, and motor issues Robin had been struggling with. His mind, the very tool he had relied on for his entire career, was deteriorating from the inside out. Susan later shared that in the months before his death, Robin had moments of near-crippling fear that he couldn't explain. He experienced what he described as a chemical storm in his brain, and he was painfully aware that something was wrong. The misdiagnosis meant that while Robin was trying to come to terms with a Parkinson's diagnosis, he was in fact fighting a far more severe and misunderstood illness, without the full understanding or support that might have come with a correct diagnosis. In the aftermath of his death, Susan became a passionate advocate for Lewy body dementia awareness. She gave emotional interviews and even wrote essays and appeared in documentaries to explain the torment Robin had been enduring. She emphasized how misdiagnosis can rob families of the clarity they need and prevent proper care for those suffering. Through her work, she brought attention to a disease that was not widely understood and gave context to Robin's final months, helping people make sense of the tragedy not only from an emotional standpoint, but a medical one as well. Robin's legacy, however, remains immense. He left behind a staggering body of work that continues to influence new generations of performers and creatives. His ability to improvise at lightning speed, his deep empathy, and his range from manic comedy to soulful drama set a standard that few have matched. Movies like Patch Adams and Awakenings showed his ability to bring warmth and humanity to roles that required emotional depth. In Hook, he reimagined Peter Pan as a grown man learning to rediscover his joy and imagination, a metaphor that seemed perfectly suited for Robin's own spirit. In The Fisher King, he portrayed a mentally ill man with such rawness that audiences couldn't help but feel both sorrow and admiration. Even his comedic performances, rapid fire and zany, had an edge of brilliance that made them more than just jokes. They were reflections of a mind that never rested. Friends and collaborators speak of Robin as a generous, deeply sensitive man. He was known for showing up at children's hospitals in full costume, for comforting strangers with kind words, and for always trying to make people laugh, even when he was at his lowest. His charity work included supporting the homeless, helping veterans, and advocating for healthcare. These efforts were often done quietly, without media coverage because that's who he was, someone who cared deeply, but didn't need credit. His empathy wasn't just a performance. It was foundational to who he was as a person. Robin's death also sparked new conversations about mental health, especially among men, who often face stigma around expressing vulnerability. His story showed that even someone who brings joy to millions can be silently suffering. It reminded the world that depression doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes, it looks like the funniest person in the room. His openness about his own struggles, combined with the tragedy of his death, made space for more people to speak honestly about their mental health. In the years since his passing, Robin Williams has remained a cultural icon. Documentaries like Robin Williams, Come Inside My Mind, and Robin's Wish have delved deeper into his life, offering intimate portraits that celebrate both his triumphs and struggles. Museums and institutions have created tributes in his honor. His former co-stars often speak about him with tears in their eyes, remembering the brilliance, kindness, and chaos he brought into every room. His children, Zach, Zelda, and Cody, continue to honor his legacy in their own ways, often speaking about his influence and the love he gave them. They carry pieces of him forward, ensuring that his story continues not only in film, but in the personal stories of those who loved him most. Even now, years after his death, Robin Williams remains a powerful figure. His jokes are quoted, his scenes are replayed, and his voice still echoes in the minds of fans around the world. But more than that, his story continues to educate, inspire, and move people. He showed us that pain and joy can coexist, that laughter can be both an escape and a healing tool, and that even the brightest stars can sometimes fade too soon. His life was a reminder that the human spirit is complex, fragile, and beautiful. Robin Williams didn't just entertain the world, he helped it feel, hope, and laugh, and that is a legacy that will never truly die. The night before his death, Robin's behavior was unusual in ways that only made sense later. He took several wristwatches, put them in a sock, and dropped them off at someone's house, an action described as paranoid by Susan. He told her he wanted to keep them safe, a sign of the growing anxiety and fear that plagued him. He also called Susan at 7:09 p.m. to say he was buying magazines for her at a bookstore, a small gesture that showed he was still trying to connect despite his struggles. These moments paint a picture of a man wrestling with something he couldn't fully articulate, even to himself. When the autopsy report was released on November 7, 2014, by the Marin County Sheriff's Office, it confirmed what investigators had suspected. Robin's death was a suicide caused by asphyxia due to hanging. Toxicology tests found no alcohol or illegal drugs in his system, only therapeutic levels of prescribed medications, including antidepressants and levodopa. This ruled out any substance-related cause and confirmed that Robin had stayed sober, honoring his years of recovery. But the report included a bombshell finding. An examination of his brain tissue revealed diffuse Lewy body dementia, a condition far more severe than the Parkinson's he'd been diagnosed with. This discovery shifted the narrative around his death and offered a clearer, though heartbreaking, explanation for his final months. Lewy body dementia is a progressive brain disorder caused by abnormal protein deposits called Lewy bodies that build up in nerve cells. It's the second most common form of dementia, after Alzheimer's, affecting about 1.4 million people in the United States, according to the Lewy Body Dementia Association. LBD shares symptoms with both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, which is why it's often misdiagnosed. It can cause motor issues like tremors and stiffness, similar to Parkinson's, as well as cognitive problems like memory loss, confusion, and hallucinations. It also brings psychological symptoms, including anxiety, depression, and paranoia, which can be especially intense. Unlike Alzheimer's, where memory loss is often the first sign, LBD can start with movement issues or mental health symptoms, making it tricky to diagnose. For Robin, the effects of LBD were devastating. Susan Schneider-Williams later wrote in a 2016 essay for the journal Neurology that his case was one of the worst pathologies doctors had seen. Starting in October 2013, he experienced a sudden spike in fear, anxiety, and insomnia, which grew worse over time. He developed paranoia and delusions, and his cognitive abilities started to slip. He was aware something was wrong, which added to his distress. Susan described LBD as a terrorist inside my husband's brain, noting that he once said, "I just want to reboot my brain." The disease was attacking nearly every part of his brain, causing a disintegration he could feel but not understand. His son Zach later said on the Genius Life podcast in 2021 that the misdiagnosis of Parkinson's meant Robin was taking medications that didn't address the real problem and may have worsened his symptoms, adding to his frustration and discomfort. The autopsy showed that Lewy bodies were spread throughout Robin's brain and brainstem, a severe case that explained the wide range of symptoms he faced. These included not just physical issues like tremors and constipation, but also psychological ones like paranoia and hallucinations. Though Susan noted he never admitted to hallucinations, possibly hiding the extent of his suffering. The disease's impact on his ability to think, reason, and perform was crushing for someone whose career relied on his quick wit and creativity. Zach explained that Robin felt he was losing control, which was especially painful for an artist known for his improvisational genius. One question that lingers is whether LBD directly caused Robin's suicide. Experts, including those from the Lewy Body Dementia Association, say it's impossible to make a definitive link, as LBD affects everyone differently. Some people with LBD live productive lives with proper treatment, but Robin never got that chance. He was scheduled to visit a neurocognitive testing facility a week after his death, which might have led to a correct diagnosis. Susan told The Guardian in 2021 that Robin was terrified of being locked up at the facility, a fear that may have stemmed from his paranoia and contributed to his decision to end his life. She believes this panic, fueled by LBD, played a significant role in his final hours. The coroner's report and Susan's accounts also shed light on Robin's state of mind the day before his death. On August 10th, he was restless and anxious, moving between rooms and engaging in small, erratic actions like stashing his watches. He spent time online, reportedly looking up information about medications, which pathologist Dr. Richard Shepard featured in a 2015 episode of Autopsy, The Last Hours of Robin Williams on Channel 5, showed he knew something else was wrong with him. These searches didn't point to suicide planning, but they reflected his desperation to understand what was happening to his body and mind. The fact that he cleaned up blood from his wrist cuts before his death, as noted in the Daily Mail, suggests he may have hesitated or tried to conceal his actions, adding another layer of complexity to his final moments. Robin's death wasn't just a personal tragedy, it had a broader impact. Studies published in journals like PLOS One and the Canadian Journal of Psychiatry noted spikes in suicidal thoughts and behaviors in the US and Canada following his death, showing how his loss resonated with the public. His openness about mental health struggles had made him a relatable figure, and the news of his suicide sparked grief and confusion. Susan became an advocate for LBD awareness after his death, creating the 2020 documentary Robin's Wish to educate others about the disease. She told CNN that learning the name of the ghost disease that plagued Robin felt like identifying his killer, giving her a sense of clarity amid the pain. Looking back, Robin's career was a testament to his ability to connect with people. His stand-up specials, like Robin Williams, live on Broadway in 2002, showcased his frenetic energy and sharp humor. His film roles, from the heartfelt teacher in Dead Poets Society to the quirky psychologist in Good Will Hunting, showed his range. Even in smaller roles like his appearance in an episode of Louie or Law & Order, Special Victims Unit, he brought depth and humanity. But LBD stole his ability to fully embody that spark in his final months, leaving him feeling trapped in a body and mind that were failing him. The parallels between Robin's death and his 2009 film, World's Greatest Dad, are eerie. In the movie, his character's son dies by hanging in a way strikingly similar to Robin's own death, a detail noted by investigators and fans alike. Some, like a Reddit user in 2014, speculated that the film was a way for Robin to express his inner turmoil. Though there's no evidence he planned his death years in advance. The connection feels more like a haunting coincidence, a reflection of the darkness he carried even as he made others laugh. Robin's struggles with addiction and depression were part of his story, but the autopsy made it clear that LBD was a major factor in his final days. The disease's symptoms, paranoia, anxiety, cognitive decline, amplified his existing challenges, creating a perfect storm. Susan emphasized that depression was just one of many symptoms, not the primary driver. In her words to People, it was not depression that killed Robin. The Lewy bodies infiltrating his brain were the unseen enemy, one he fought without knowing its name. The public response to Robin's death was overwhelming. Tributes poured in from fans, celebrities, and friends, like Billy Crystal, who described a poignant moment when Robin held his shoulder, as if wanting to say something, but holding back. His children, Zach, Zelda, and Cody, faced their own grief while navigating a legal dispute with Susan over his estate, a painful footnote to an already tragic story. His ashes were scattered over San Francisco Bay the day after his death, a quiet farewell for a man who lived so vibrantly. Robin's story highlights the importance of understanding neurological conditions like LBD. The Lewy Body Dementia Association notes that early diagnosis is critical but challenging, as symptoms overlap with other disorders. For Robin, the misdiagnosis meant he never got the treatment that might have helped. His case has since raised awareness, with Susan's advocacy pushing for better research and education. Resources like the LBDA's website and their documentary Spark, Robin Williams and His Battle with Lewy Body Dementia, offer tools for those facing similar struggles, from symptom checklists to treatment guides. In reflecting on Robin's final hours, It's clear he was fighting a battle on multiple fronts. The paranoia, the physical symptoms, the fear of losing himself. It all converged in a moment of desperation. Yet even in his darkest moments, he left behind a legacy of joy. His performances continue to inspire, from the laughter of Mrs. Doubtfire to the quiet wisdom of Good Will Hunting. His life reminds us that even the brightest souls can face unseen struggles, and his death underscores the need for compassion and understanding for those battling mental and neurological conditions. The autopsy report gave us answers, but it also raised questions about how we support those with complex illnesses. Robin Williams didn't just leave us with laughter. He left us with a call to learn more, to listen, and to help others find the answers he couldn't. His story is a reminder that behind every smile, there can be a struggle, and sometimes, the truth only comes to light when it's too late. Robin Williams' impact extended far beyond the screen or the stage. He changed lives, not just through his art, but through his actions. He was known to go out of his way to support friends who were struggling, offering financial help or simply showing up when they needed someone. After the death of his friend Christopher Reeve, Robin quietly provided financial assistance for Reeve's medical care, even before others knew what had happened. That kind of loyalty was typical of Robin. He valued friendship, empathy, and connection more than fame or accolades. People who worked with him often said that while his talent was undeniable, it was his humanity that stayed with them the longest. He took the time to listen, to care, and to make people feel seen. In the comedy world, Robin was revered not just for being funny, but for being fearless. He could step onto a stage with no script and keep an audience laughing for hours, jumping between impressions, stories, and improvised characters. His mind moved at lightning speed, and watching him perform felt like witnessing something magical. But that same energy, when turned inward, could be exhausting. He once said in an interview that performing was a way to quiet the noise in his head, a place where everything made sense if only for a little while. Today, his memory is kept alive through countless tributes, foundations, and moments shared by those who loved him. Whether it's a child discovering Aladdin for the first time, a student finding courage in Dead Poets Society, or a struggling soul relating to his battle with depression, Robin's influence continues to ripple outward. His life, with all its laughter, heartbreak, brilliance, and tragedy, remains a mirror for what it means to be fully, deeply human. To wrap up, let's remember Robin not just for his tragic end, but for the light he brought to the world. His work lives on, and so does the lesson of his life. To seek understanding, to fight for clarity, and to cherish the moments of joy that make us human. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or neurological symptoms, resources like the Lewy Body Dementia Association or mental health hotlines can offer support. Robin's wish, as Susan put it, was to bring happiness to others. Let's honor that by spreading awareness and kindness in his memory. The autopsy didn't just reveal the physical cause of Robin Williams' passing. It uncovered the silent struggle he endured in his final days. It's a sobering reminder that even those who bring joy to others can be suffering in silence. His legacy will always be his laughter, but now we also understand the pain behind it.